Hi everyone, this is Ranjit from BrkPoint. So today I'm here with a new feature on the BrkPoint which is called ETF Trend Rider. So what it does is it scans few ETFs and then it will show you when to enter and when to exit. So there is a strategy behind it, and there is also a philosophy why we took this ETF and how we created this specific scanner. So we will see how this scanner works and what are the features of it, how to entry and how to exit, and we will see all those points. So basically we have a collection of 7 ETF stocks. So we scan domestic ETFs such as Bank Bs, Gold Bs and IT Bs and Nifty Bs. So these are Indian specific ETF which is related to their own indexes. Other than that, we also monitor one ETF from United States as well as 2 ETFs from Hong Kong. So we will look at each ETF, what are the underlying assets and all that. So the first one is Bank Bs. Bank Bs actually, it's a Bank Nifty actually. So it's a small form of Bank Nifty. So whatever Indian banks and financial sector stocks which comes under the Bank Nifty is also part of the Bank Bs. So originally you can say it is a collection of banking stocks. Also it is an equity based ETF. And the next one is Gold Bs. Gold Bs is actually a commodity ETF. The underlying is gold. So the name is actually called Nippon India ETF Gold Bs. So this is also a domestic ETF fund. So next one is Hang Seng Bs. The country of origin of this ETF is Hong Kong, and it's an international ETF. So the underlying is equity ETF. And Hang Seng Bs have sectors diversified into financials, technology and consumer services, and also real estate. So the next one is ITBs. ITBs is actually a equity ETF which is primarily based on IT industry from India. It's a domestic ETF. So the next one is Mafang. Mafang is actually created by Mirai Asset. The primary exposure is on IT as well as communication services. So this is also an equity ETF which is having an international exposure. Then the next one is MacTech. It's a Mirai Asset ETF that is also having an international exposure and based on a Hong Kong index, which is a tech index. So you can say the top holding in this ETF is Alibaba Group and Tencent Holdings and Xiaomi and all that. The last one is Nifty Bs. Nifty Bs is actually a smaller form of Nifty 50 which is having exposure to 50 companies, 50 large cap companies in India. So that is also a domestic exposure ETF fund. So next we will look at why this trend rider strategy and what is the reason behind creating this kind of basket, and then how it helps us to do a better sector rotation based on the global news. So like I said, we have exposure on domestic ETF as well as the international ETF. So we have seen which are the domestic ETF that we have in this basket as well as the international ETF. So with these 3 domestic ETF, the Nifty Bs, Bank Bs and IT Bs, so with these we capture India's economic growth and financial inclusion, digital economy as well as banking reforms. So when you invest in these domestic ETF, you are actually investing in familiar territory. So you know the companies and sectors that you are actually investing in. Also you are protected from currency fluctuations, as these ETFs are like priced in Indian rupees. So we don't need to worry about the fluctuation of Indian rupees. So the next batch is international ETF like Mafang, MacTech and Hang Seng Bs. So as I mentioned, we are focusing on Hong Kong as well as US tech giants. So Mafang is actually focusing on the tech giants in the US. So when you need to have an exposure, companies like Meta, Amazon and Apple or Google, you can invest in these ETF. So we know in Asia also we have a lot of tech giants. So if you need to have exposure to those tech giants in China, then the best way to invest is invest on Hang Seng Bs. So when you invest in Mafang, what happens is if the tech industry is booming in US, you get the benefits from US. That means you don't need to actually invest in separate stocks in US and have separate platform to invest in US stocks. So with multi-asset exposure, we are not keeping all our eggs in one basket. I will show you the reason why I have said that based on some performance what we had in last year. And the next one is geographical diversification. So as we have ETFs from India, US and Hong Kong, we had a bad trend in India since last 8 months. So what happened is there was different ETFs in Hong Kong which has outperformed Nifty. So if we strategically place our investment in a place where the ETF is performing well, we will be able to take benefit from those ETFs. So the next fundamental advantage is a sector rotation flexibility. So the best example for that is the recent outperformance done by the gold ETF. We know all other sectors like Nifty and Bank Nifty did not perform. That time the gold ETF has outperformed all these indexes and gave a massive good returns during this time. Then the next method is mitigation of risk through a non-correlated asset. That means we have exposure on equity as well as commodity. So when the equity based sector is not performing well, we can shift our fund to a performing commodity based ETF. So generating an alpha return is like you beat the benchmark index or the index return. Then you can say that you create an alpha. So here with the momentum strategy, we don't hold any of the stocks, any of the ETFs always. We enter when there is a momentum and then we exit when that momentum fades. So here we are seeing the screenshot from the ETF Trend Rider scanner. So you can see the symbol is written here and the current status and the last signal which is like it will come as red and green. Then the LTP when it created a green signal. It also mentions the last green signal date. And also it shows number of days it is open since that green signal date. This change shows what is the current change after when the green signal was created and what is the current state based on the recent LTP. So in ETF Trend Rider scanner in BrkPoint, we have the feature which explains about the strategy as well as how to take exit and entry and all that. And there is also one trade allocation calculator. So we have allocated the total capital into 14 parts. So you can enter your total capital there and it will show you how much you need to allocate in each trades. So this is the trade summary which is started from 23rd May 2024 till 19 March 2025. So during this period we got 28 trades actually from these 7 ETF. So overall profit sum, if you look at it, is like 146.5%. The lowest active position during these months were 1 and the maximum positions was 7 positions at in a month. So in the total trades, if you look at each ones, the bank Bs were 8 trades were there, but then the profit is negative. And then gold Bs there was 3 trades. And overall it gave a 15.9%. And also you can see how much the Hangs and Bs gave. It gave a 37.57% from 3 trades. The best performance given was the MACTech. So Nifty Bs and Bank Bs you will see in a non-performing state because of the last 6 to 8 months. So based on this philosophy, if you keep your investments in the right place, no matter what condition it is, you can get a better returns. So the next one is how to use this ETF Trend Rider. So the first one is when to buy an ETF. So as I mentioned, you need to buy this ETF when the last signal turns into green. So that is the time you will start to buy it. If by any chance, if you miss that chance to buy on that signal date, you can buy it on the next day morning at around 9:15. But then if you miss to invest maybe after 3-4 days and the change percentage is like above 2%, then that means you have missed that entry. So how to book the profit? There are 2 methods you can book the profit. Here based on this result, what we have done is we have exited based on the red signal which comes here. So when we get the red signal, we exit. But there is a different method also to exit. So based on the certain profit levels, you can exit also. So imagine that the stock had moved 3% or 5% or even 7%. So you can set up a strategy like I will always exit based on the 3% and then I will reallocate that capital to a next trade. So if you follow that method, then you can follow this 3% or 5% rule. If I do based on that, then see, this has already grown to 6.81%. And this one which is become a red zone, I will do a exit over here. So the next question is there a stop loss? So actually there is no stop loss in this strategy, and also no loss booking, because we only do the averaging method. So imagine if after you entering this particular ETF, suddenly if it falls below negative 3.5%, what you will do is you will add another allocation of your overall capital and then average it, and then you don't do anything. And when it comes to that specific 3% or 5%, you do an exit. That's all. And then next one is how many trades maximum I will have at a time. So the maximum trades that you will have at a time is 7, because we are actually monitoring only 7 ETF. Then your capital allocation is strictly based on the 14 parts. Then the most important thing is you should always be strict on the capital allocation. So we allocate we slice the capital into 14 parts. So whenever you allocate a certain amount to average one of the loss making trade, you should always make sure that you allocate that one part of the overall capital into that particular trade, not more than that. So what does the current status mean? The current status which you see here is actually a red zone and green zone. So if you see it as a green zone, that means you can still ride the trend. But if you see a red zone means the downtrend may have started. So when this happens, you can, if you are in profit, then you can exit from this trade. Then the next one is what is the last green date? Last green date we have explained. The last green date means the date which this green signal triggered. So the next one is what is the days open. The days open means the number of days it is open after the green signal. Then the last and most important thing is when you need to take an entry, make sure it is after 3:15. So if you're seeing an entry today at around maybe 12 o'clock, just wait for that. Wait for at least 3:15. Then you take the entry. If you still see that green signal after 3:15, then you make an entry. Otherwise, do not attempt to take an entry. But when you see a red signal anytime during the day, you can exit. But imagine if you have an entry which is like 10 to 15 days old, and you are in a profit like 1 or 2%, like we see on the previous screen, this one. So the trade is already open for 24 days. It is at 2.4%, and if you are seeing this red signal on the last on the recent date, then that means it is time to exit. So that's all with regards to the ETF Trend Rider. And if you want to know how to access the BrkPoint, I'll show you how to open the website and then login and all. So this is the website, BrkPoint.in website. The spelling is BrkPoint.in. So when you come to that website, you have a login screen. When you click on the login screen, you will get the option to sign up. After you sign up and create an account, you can simply log in with that email ID and the OTP. Once you log in, you will see this dashboard. And once you have an active subscription, you can come under the ETF Trend Rider and then see the dashboard over here. And then once you come to the ETF Trend Rider, you can see the details over here. And also we have a how to use guide which is in the English and Malayalam also. Alright, so that's all with regards to the ETF Trend Rider scanner. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out through our WhatsApp support link. Thanks for watching.